On the 31st of March, 1999, 10 Things I Hate About You was released into theaters. The film was like many at the time, a romantic comedy revolving around teenagers and their relationships, but what set this film apart was its more serious nature, touching on serious contemporary themes that many young people face. The film drew inspiration from several sources, most prominently William Shakespeare's 1591 play, Taming of the Shrew. The film obviously referenced the play heavily and reused many of its main ideas, but is it a well-made contemporary version of the play, or has it changed the morals and values beyond recognition? We'll explore that in today's episode. In the play, true to the values of the time, many actions and decisions made by characters are dictated by the involved character's social status. For example, in the play, Baptista doesn't let Bianca marry Lucentio until Lucentio convinces him he is very rich. He views Bianca as a great prize rather than a person, and views her marriage to Lucentio as a strategic economic move. The only reason that Bianca ends up with Lucentio is because of the money he can offer. If another of Bianca's suitors, such as Hortensio, had offered more money, then she would have ended up marrying him, regardless of whether she loved Lucentio. Now, in 10 Things I Hate About You, this is different. Rather than social status, it's more about how people are seen by others. For example, when Cameron first gestures towards Patrick, Michael warns Cameron.
And what about him? Him? No, don't look at him.
This immediately tells us that people prefer to avoid Patrick rather than give him a chance, the same way Bianca initially ignores Cameron because he isn't a rich, handsome model like Joey. The difference is that Bianca does end up choosing Cameron over Joey, and it isn't because of his social status. She just finds out that Joey's a terrible person and she's better off with Cameron. In the play, despite the major role feminism plays, it wasn't really something that many people at the time respected, as demonstrated in the clip.
Signor Grumio, go to thy mistress and say I command her to come to me.
This line states the belief that women are not meant to think, just do what they're told. These ideas and beliefs are all reflected in Taming of the Shrew, with Kate's strong and independent character being ultimately stripped down to a simple woman of the time. But as the values of society changed over time, these ideas became less and less relevant, with people encouraging strong women. Like in the play, Kat's introduction in the film also establishes her character very strongly, contrasting her dirty car and angry rough music with the more pleasant teenage girls' music and their convertible. But the social change is also taken into account, where at the end of the film, Kate's strong feminist personality isn't broken down, it's encouraged by her father and the other people around her, who no longer see her as a heinous bitch and now focus on her true colors. She does change, but she doesn't change her morals and values. She just stops being so salty towards everybody all the time. As a modern adaptation of the play, many changes have been made, both subtle and significant, such as Joey, who is more or less Gremio's equivalent, but fundamentally different. In the play, Lucentio is considered superior to Gremio because he's younger and richer, giving him the advantage in courting Bianca. But in the film, Cameron seemingly has no advantage. Joey is richer, bigger, considered better looking. This is done to give the story more substance, to force Cameron to work harder to gain Bianca's love, which is more relatable for a modern audience as opposed to 16th century courtship ritual. In order for certain aspects of it to work for a modern audience, they need to change. Take the humor, for instance. In this clip, right after Michael explains to Cameron why he got Joey involved, he proceeds to remark,
I have a dick on my face, don't I?
Now to us that's funny, but to someone back in 1591 when Taming of the Shrew was in theaters, it would probably have been considered vulgar by the audience. At the same time, humor in the play would struggle to amuse a modern audience, such as in Act 3, Scene 2, when Biondello describes Petruchio to Baptista.
Petruchio is coming in a new hat! And an old jerkin.
To an audience of 1591, the humor comes from the description of how ridiculous he would look. But modern audience won't even understand half the words in that quote, let alone be amused by it. Shakespearean references are everywhere throughout 10 Things I Hate About You. Some are very obvious, such as when Cameron reacts to seeing Bianca for the first time by saying,
I burn, I pine, I perish.
That line and way of speaking is obviously not the way people today tend to talk. Some references are more subtle and harder to spot, such as the play within the play theme expressed through the fact that people pretend to be something they're not, such as Patrick acting cold-hearted when he really does care about people.
See, first of all, Joey is not half the man you are. Secondly, don't let anyone ever make you feel like you don't deserve what you want.
The names of both the school, Padua High, and Patrick Verona also serve as references to Shakespeare, Padua being the town in which Taming of the Shrew takes place, and Verona being the city that Patrick's counterpart Petruchio comes from. It's hard to say that these two works are exactly the same, but it's hard to say that they're fundamentally different too. Stock characters and their counterparts are all present, but they've been updated to reflect a 1990s audience. Despite this, the impact the film has on its audience was still quite similar to the impact the play had on people in Shakespeare's times. It still upholds the same values, spreading the messages of feminism, being with someone for love. Granted, while the play relied on the error of people opposing these values, the film directly promotes them in the actions of the characters, but the message comes across the same way nevertheless. All the film really does is adapt it to the context of a more advanced starting point in terms of female equality. So yes, the characters are different, the language is different, even the plot is different, but the morals and values represented in Taming of the Shrew are just as, if not more prominent in 10 Things I Hate About You.